Okay, hi guys. I hope everyone is good. So, I've been asked to explain or to elaborate on my MRCS preparation. So, what you see before you is actually a little flow chart, very simple, as to my preparation for my MRCS Part A. Now, I took my MRCS Part A exam in September 2006 with the Royal College of Surgeons, Edinburgh, in the UK. My preparation, I usually take very long to study, so that's why I would recommend you take it after about 4 months. Although there have been some success stories with persons taking the exam after 2 months, but personally, I think 4 to 6 months is adequate. And it depends on your schedule as well too, because if you're on call regularly, you're not going to get the amount of hours daily put in to studying as a person who, for instance, is not working, 1 and 2 calls. So, for instance, I know persons who work 1 and 2 calls in some rotations, like those kind of residents should probably take a little bit longer to do the exam because you need to get in good studying. It's an expensive exam, so you don't want to have to do it back over. No, so I'll tell you why I say that. When I was an intern and I did my internship in Trinidad, even though I'm originally from Barbados, when I did the internship in Trinidad, I actually was so ambitious that I took my MRCS Part A exam in April of 2014. Now, I took it, and that year the pass mark was 70%, and I got 65%. So I failed by 5% that year. And I think part of the reason why I failed at that point in time was due to the fact that I rushed my prep, although I did out the question banks, I did all of the question banks. I did past tests at that time and I did EMRCS, but I know for certain I finished past tests, didn't finish EMRCS. So I did that and I thought that was enough. But when you graduate medical school, unless you're naturally gifted, which I don't think I am, I think you should give yourself at least a year to get through internship and at least 6 months surgical experience, 6 to 8 months. Although there are some persons who are very successful in doing their MRCS Part A in their internship. So the question banks that you see before you right here, there's EMRCS past test and British Medical Journal 1 examination. Now, a lot of people swear by EMRCS. I actually didn't finish it off because I didn't like how the question bank was set up. But a lot of people that I've seen on the forums for MRCS actually use EMRCS. So if you see it and you ask someone and they say they like it, you can use it. Me personally, I use past tests and I use BMJ 1 examination. I like 1 examination better than I like past tests. And the reason for that is that the 1 examination exam questions are actually a little bit more challenging than the questions that came on the exam. So if you want questions that are more in-depth, be it British Medical Journal 1 examination. However, past test has more questions and they throw them at you so much that it's like when you're studying from that question bank, you will find that when the exam comes, you've seen so many questions that it really just, there's very few questions that they throw at you that you don't understand where the examiner is coming from. So the next thing is that the books that I should talk about is the books that I used. Past Test has 2 sets of books, books 1 and books 2. They're for the MRCS Part A examination and they're extremely helpful. Now, I posted the names of the books in my previous video about the books that I use and my preparation for the MRCS. These books are essential, as well as Clinically Oriented. Clinically Oriented is a very good anatomy book, and I used a Netter's. But some people swear by LAS. I don't like the LAS because I find LAS anatomy is a bit too concise, and for some reason in the exam, especially for my OSCE, I found they ask a lot of origin and insertion questions. And if you're asking origin and insertion, LAS will give you somewhat of an idea, but Clinically Oriented has these nice tables that are just so helpful. And also, how long did I study per day? I studied 6 hours per day. I try to get in at least 6 hours per day. And this is good hours. So I might have studied 10, but I got in at least 6 hours of decent studying. Okay? So that's it for the part A. Now for the part B exam, it's I took 5 months. So when I finished in September of 2016, August, September, October, November, December, January, and then February I took the examination. I flew up to the UK and I did my exam in February. Now the question banks that I use are, sorry, I should tell you the ones that are available. So the ones that are available, past tests, there's past the MRCS and there's eMRCS. I don't like the eMRCS for part B, but some people vouch for it. Now, there's something that a lot of people miss when it comes to the OSCE, and the main part of that people miss is that you have to be able to communicate properly. And I said this in my previous video. Communication is key. Past test has this question bank for the OSCE that is really helpful, and I'm sorry that I didn't purchase it earlier. But when I purchased it, I was kind of skeptical because I find past test is so expensive. So I was so skeptical of just purchasing it, and I purchased it, and I personally found that the scenarios that they gave for the exam literally mimicked or were so similar to how the examiner came about approach you in the exam. For instance, there was a communication, the history station that gives a lot of people a lot of problems because some people cannot communicate very well. So the history station, how you're supposed to communicate with the patient. If you're not a person who's very good with empathy, that just shows you exactly how you're supposed to approach it. There's a Breaking Bad news station. You have to know how to do that as well too. So past test is my number 2. Number 1 though is past the MRCS. Everybody that takes the OSCE will tell you have to do a past the MRCS. I did pass the MRCS 1.5 times, meaning that I did a 1 time straight, and then I went through it, half of it again. So let me pause. Hi, sorry about that. My son woke up. So what I was saying is that the past the MRCS is essential, right? What I used to study was the previous books, which was as I mentioned, the past test books. I also used the Bailey and Love, and I used the Browse surgical book. 90 to 100% of the question must be done twice, and I put that at the bottom. Meaning, if you did 90% and you're unable to go back to finish the 10%, at least go back through the 90% that you did already. I took my exam February of this year, and I was successful this year, and I did it in one go, and I'm very thankful. So I just think that a little patience and just put in the hours, 6 hours per night at least, 5 to 6 hours. If you're on a surgical rotation, literally just dive right into the surgical rotation. And I don't mean scrubbing on every single surgery, because just remember that even though you might be the best in terms of your hand technique in surgery, you still have to have the knowledge. So, I mean, when you're in surgery, if you're observing a surgery, try to, read in the surgery if you can read in the operating theater. If not, use that as a learning moment where you can just try to learn the tools. If you see someone doing a chest tube insertion, go try to see how it's done. If not, if you can volunteer for that procedure, catheterization, if you're not an empathetic physician, try to work on that as well too, because surgeons have a tendency to not be very empathetic, and that's something that we have to work on. I think I've said a lot on that. So my next slide here is very simply, who can do the MRCS Part A? If you have an MD or an MRCS or an MBBS, you can do your MRCS Part A. You can only move on to your MRCS Part B if you have been successful in your MRCS Part A. Okay, so you can't skip one rotation. You can't skip one and go ahead and do for instance, do MRCS Part B before Part A. Okay, So I hope this answers everyone's questions. Keep your questions coming.